What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. My name is Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
Hope you're all doing well. We have a lot of music to talk about this week, but let's briefly touch on you saw Primus, Pussifer, and A Perfect Circle the other night. How was that show?
I did, man. It was cool. It was, I believe, one of the opening nights of the Sasanta tour. I think it's the second Sasanta tour that they've done. It was really cool, man. They kind of like took turns playing a few songs at a time. A
Oh,
Perfect Circle
interesting.
opened, and then Pussifer, and then Primus, and then A Perfect Circle again, and then Pussifer, and then Primus, and you got to hear a lot of good songs. Got to hear Primus and Les Claypool jam out to Jerry is a Race Car Driver,
The
which
best.
is
The best.
it 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 it's one of those songs, you know what I mean?
Yes, for some reason, I don't know about everybody else's experience with that, but I can't remember all of the video game soundtracks it was on 64, but I feel like it was on a couple, and every time I hear Jerry was a race car driver, I go straight back to playing 64 in my room as like a kid. I love their music, and getting to hear that song live myself for the first time, like, God, I don't even know, like 8 years ago now, was a magical moment. So I'm glad it hit for you as well.
And Les Claypool's a fucking legend. So,
Maynard's still a fucking weirdo.
oh, always.
Cool. Yeah. Good to know that's at least still the same. You got an upcoming show, man. You got Static Dress at a record store in LA on Saturday. You excited for that?
Yes, I am taking my boy Christian. We are gonna have some fun. I've never been to a show at a record store before, and I'm not really too sure what to expect, but I am excited. Static Dress has been every time they release something, they've been a mainstay on the podcast, and
Yep.
I got to see them open for Under Oath last year,
Hmm.
and it's one of those bands that like, yeah, this band is fucking tight, and then you see them and you're like, oh my God, is this band fucking good?
Dude,
So I'm
I think
excited
seeing
for it.
them in a small record store is going to be pretty kick-ass. Hopefully you hear something new. They haven't dropped a new song, I'm gonna say in a while, but it was probably like a month or so ago. It was great. I'm just really anxious to know what's next. Hopefully you get some info with that.
Yeah, yeah, same.
Lastly, we had Stagecoach last weekend. I didn't catch any of it other than T-Pain apparently performed, and I looked up the set list to see if he did a different set. Nah, it was pretty much the Coachella set with like one or two differences. Is Stagecoach even a country music festival anymore?
I mean, arguably yes, but it's country has become trendy and so intertwined with pop over the last couple of years that
Yeah, true.
I think there was a lot of influencers at Stagecoach for one of the first times this year. So
Yeah, a few stats I saw, which this first one kind of gets me, but I do believe it, which is more beer was sold day one of Stagecoach than both weekends of Coachella. I'm not sure how they gauged that metric, but I believe it. I do believe it.
right.
Yeah, and I did last thing on Stagecoach is I did see one video from like inside the Yuma, and it's like a bunch of people line dancing. Holy shit, not a lot of people really go to the side stages at Coachella because I've never seen the Yuma that empty, even at like gates open at Coachella. It's a different vibe, I should say. Not weird. I've never
Yes.
been, so I can't judge. But man, what a difference one weekend makes in like the type of festival that takes place there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the Yuma's funny at Coachella because there's literally a fucking line, and it can be a long line for some artists.
And now there's just line dancing, man. All
Thank
right,
you,
man.
Diplo.
Thanks, Diplo. The only time I'm ever gonna say that on this podcast. All right, man. Let's talk about some music. New one
Do
from
it.
Clean Bandit, Tiesto, and Leone called "Tell Me Where You Go." I thought this one was incredible. Love the beat, love the vocals. Very like 90s dance pop coded. Although I have no idea who Clean Bandit is. Are you too familiar with them?
I've heard the name and I believe I've listened to like a handful of songs from back in like like the big room house days, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but this is catchy as hell, man.
Really, really good. I hit follow. Really like this tune. New one from Above and Beyond and Zoe Johnston called Carry Me Home. Every time Above and Beyond and Zoe Johnston work together, it is magic. This is no different. What'd you think of it?
You know, man, I think the secret ingredient to Above and Beyond's music is love. I think they just actually pour love into their sound.
I mean, normally I would eye roll so hard at that, but as somebody who has seen them live and kind of teared up when they hold a little iPad with a smiley face up at the
Right.
camera or some bullshit, and it works on me, man. Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. As corny as it is, Above and Beyond just hits that love aspect of EDM that not a lot of other groups do.
It's love, baby.
It is, man. All right. This next few, the next few that I threw on, some of these go back a few weeks. They're just tracks that I've been listening to and had to talk to you about. I think you were at Coachella during some of these, but new one from Pasa and Malachi, I think is the name of the other artist called Bang Bang. I didn't really love that last Pasa single we talked about late last year. I think Dirty Money was the name, but
Yeah.
this one absolutely fucks, dude. I love this song. What about you?
Yeah, this is a straight banger.
New one from Prospa, Don't Stop. I keep seeing their name in like the EDM blogs kind of everywhere alongside like names like Max Styler and stuff. So I had to check it out. This is the newest song, and I can kind of hear why people are so high on him, man. It's got really good bounce to it. I think they have a nice sound. This track is really good. What'd you think?
Groovy, full of disco. That grumbling bass line is great. This is a great song.
Yeah, yeah, definitely hit follow. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from them soon. A new one featuring Nia Archives by Cheetah called Get Loose. It's also on Nia Archives label. And anytime Nia is on a jungle track, you know we're adding it to the playlist because it's going to be good. I thought they killed it, man. This is really, really good. What do you think?
Absolutely crushed it. The percussion is perfect.
So good. Alice in Wonderland. She released a new song, Get Started. So it's 2025, which means the trap boom of 2015 is officially 10 years old, which also means it's time for it to come back around.
Coming
She's
back.
she's been very open about how much she still liked the genre when people started to not enjoy it as much. And I'm glad she's not done making trap bangers that she clearly enjoys making. On top of this new track, we got a new album on the way. And on top of all that, she recently celebrated the 10-year anniversary of her debut album by performing at a fucking Renaissance fair in like Southern California and doing all Renaissance versions of the song. The turnout seemed to be, from the videos I saw, like equal amount of her fans that showed up and people that were just at this event, not having any idea what they were watching. It seemed like everyone was having a good time. She had like people in druid robes on stage. She had a sword for some of it. She knighted someone in the crowd, and she
Fuck
still did
yeah.
live vocals during this. So
Fuck
fucking,
yeah.
fucking legend, man. What did you think of this new one in her return to trap?
Oh, Alice in Wonderland banger. Easy.
Yeah, she doesn't miss, dude. I'm very, very excited to see what's next. Her last album had a lot of these like really sincere melodic elements to it that I really appreciate. But if she wants to counter that by following it up with an album of bangers like this, sign me up, dude.
Right. And then she did that White Fang thing too in between.
Yes, yes, yeah. Again, just does not miss. New one from Marina Cantissimo. So a few months ago, when it was announced Marina from Marina and the Diamonds was releasing a solo project, I thought nothing of it, man. I didn't look into it. I like their music. I really didn't know how her sound would translate to modern pop. But boy, was I fucking dumb for sleeping on it because not just this single, but the others she's released have this shaping up to be one of the best pop albums of the year. This is the most recent. It's also my favorite of the ones she's released. The album doesn't drop until June, but I had to get you on board with this rollout, man. Now I just have the impossible task of not overplaying this before it drops, but I gotta know your thoughts. What do you think of this one?
All right. Number one, Contissimo is crazy. Um, this is actually a really fun track. I actually got to see like three of her tracks at Coachella, and her voice is crazy live. Like she
Oh,
has a great
sick.
voice live.
Do people still say YOLO?
Uh, sure. It's 2025, so everything from 2015 is coming back, remember?
Yes. Well put. New one from Pink Pantheress. This one is called Stateside. I said last time we talked about her that I was never really into her music, but that last single was great. I now think she is a strong 2 for 2 on the rollout for the new album. I have no choice but to say I'm a fan at this point, I guess. What did you think of this one?
I feel like I'm still like getting used to her vocals, but I actually like this single a little better than the last one. She's definitely two for two.
Yeah, the beat on this one is really good beyond the vocals as well.
Yep.
Young fucking Miko with this new track, What's Up? This is so fucking good, dude. Her rapping over a Lil Wayne sample as popular as the lead from Lollipop could come off so
Whoa.
corny in the wrong hands, but she fucking killed it. Shout out to the production as well. Those little vocal tags that the producer's throwing in, I thought it was Little John so
I
much
know.
that I kept looking it up. I think his name's Morno. Great job on this one, man. What'd you think?
Yeah, this is great. I actually like super rolled my eyes a little bit once I heard that
Hmm.
interpolated sample. And then
Same.
as I listened to the song, I was like, wait a second. She's killing it. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I had the same exact experience. I was like, really? And then before it was even over, I was like, ad.
yep,
Very good. New one from Megan Thee Stallion. Whenever is the name of this one. This is my song of the week, man. Feels like quintessential Meg. We needed something like this to get ready for another hot girl summer. What'd you think of it?
this girl can fucking rap, man.
Yes. Yeah, a few new wrinkles in her flow on this one, man, but that hook, dude, just so infectious. Loved it.
Yeah, great.
New one from Kali Uchis. I love you so much. Her voice is angelic as always. It's one of many inevitable songs she's gonna write about being a new mom. It might not be the type of pop and R&B writing I typically love from her lyrically, but she excels at everything, so it's enjoyable for that. But we'll see how much more of this is the topic on the album, or if it's like a little more broad in subject matter. What'd you think of this one?
Uh, Callie just stays crushing it, bro.
Yes. I mean, strong yes. We
Yeah.
we don't even have to wait, man. That album comes out like next week. Very
Hell
excited for
yeah.
that. New one from Spill Tap called Hold Me. I've been listening to just shit tons of indie pop lately, man. And Spill Tab, it's been a big part of that rotation. This is probably like the softest of the singles that have come out so far. So, admittedly, a weird one to start the rollout in terms of the podcast on. This one's very like Claro adjacent, but I still thought it was well done. It was the most recent one, so I threw it on. What'd you end up thinking about this one?
No, I actually really love this song. That
Good,
sultry
man.
saxophone fucking got me, man.
I think the album comes out pretty soon. I'm really excited for you to hear some of the other ones because the other ones have a lot more of that, but also these like more expansive instrumental bridges you can kind of get lost in and shit.
Yep.
Love this stuff though, man. Glad you're on board too. New one from Deb Never, Know Me Better. I love every Deb Never song, so naturally I loved this dude. I just hope people quit sleeping on her, dude. She is criminally underrated still. Still. What'd you think?
I I actually think she gets better with every release.
Yeah, I think she does too. And every song is so different, which might play into like maybe the I don't know, there's definitely consistency, but maybe she hasn't found her full audience yet because she's still finding her sound. But like you
Right.
said, dude, she just keeps getting better.
Yep.
New one from Soft Cult, Pill to Swallow. This shit feels so 90s to me, but I love it, dude. More of this, please. What'd you think of it?
Dreamy vocals, droning guitars,
Yeah.
glittery drums. You know I love this one.
I'm glad you did. I had a feeling you would. I've been sitting on this next one for a few weeks. I'm dying to get your thoughts. It's by a group called Love Spells. It's called How. This is just another artist I found recently. Cannot get enough of. They have an EP coming out in a couple weeks that I can't wait to hear the rest of. But this song fucking grabs me every time it comes on. Does it do the same for you?
Yes, actually, I really like this one. Really neat sound. I don't know if you saw the Spotify video that plays.
Yes.
Absolute fever dream.
Yes. That's like a whole new wrinkle to the streaming era is what like the
Right.
visual component to your track is that loops in the background. This one was good. All right, man. New Portugal the Man song, VIS. What'd you think about it?
This is a little different than they've done over the last few years. I really like this actually. Guitars are tuned really nicely. The lyrics are good. The lyric is "It's not a planet, it's a graveyard" was
Yep.
probably my favorite one on this track. What'd you think?
I thought it was very solid too, man. I loved the same things about it. Those guitars sound so good. The riffs are really catchy. I thought it was good. Very a little different, like you said, but I think it worked for him.
Yeah.
Another one from Arm's Length called The Wait. Man, these guys do not miss. I'm very excited for their new album in a couple weeks, but this is helping hold me over, dude. What about you?
Yeah, this fucking rules. I'm so glad that I got to see them open for Silverstein because I'm pretty sure those are like the smallest stages that they'll be playing ever again.
That's how it should be, man. Yeah, they should be on a rocket ship to popularity with how good this rollout has been. Very,
Yeah, they're
very
awesome.
excited for that. New one you threw on here from Drought and Fiddlehead. We're the Flora. What'd you think about it?
This feels like an old school AFI song,
Yep.
while like also not a little bit. This is both catchy, a little heavy, and I loved it, man. I previewed it and I was like, oh fuck yeah.
AFI is a great comp. Old AFI, that like DIY sad boy
Yep,
hardcore pop punk shit. Yeah,
yep.
this is really, really good, dude. I liked it too. New one from Calva Louise. We talked about her a few weeks back. This group is just quickly becoming one of my favorite things in metal. This is another absolute banger from them. Incredible song. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, this band is so fucking cool.
Yeah, their new album's coming out pretty soon too. I think that one's going to be one of the more exciting metal ones on the horizon. I just hope it gets the attention it deserves after these last few singles.
Same.
Talk to me about this last single on here, Ominous Rain's track, Eternal.
Oh man, another fucking Willow Tip banger, bro. It is what I love about Willow Tip's curation is that they have bands like this that it's it, to the layman it could be like just regular run of the mill death metal, but it isn't. There's like sweeping drums and there's like such fantastic instrumentation and the band is tiny, bro. I'm less than 6,200 monthly listeners as of right now. Like that's
That's
it's crazy to
insane.
me.
That is fucking crazy. Yeah, dude. I love kicking or closing the singles off with just some brutal death metal like this. I really liked this track. It seems to be part of a rollout. I couldn't find a release date for it yet, but we will definitely be checking out the album in full whenever it drops.
Yeah, it's probably on Bandcamp.
Most likely. Most
Yep.
likely. A couple of EPs to talk about before we move into the albums. First one is by an artist named Ten. The EP is called Humanity. So I'm pretty new to this guy's music. The EP and track I know of his prior to this is in Korean. I think this whole EP is in Japanese. I really can't tell the difference when it comes to the music though. Maybe just like kind of in the way he sings some of the vowels. Most of these are bops, dude. I think Silence is really, really well done. I could see J-Hope over a similar type beat, which I think is a good barometer if I like this. He's definitely a new name. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on going forward. What did you think about this collection of songs?
I thought it was Korean that I was hearing. But look, I know I'm still getting my sea legs where it concerns
Yeah,
K-pop, but this is a lot of fun, man. I'm usually not like a big fan of like the rapping crossover that happens with a lot of these artists slash groups, but this one really wasn't grating to me at all. I hear some actual, Korean is what I thought it was, but actual Japanese, which is slowly disappearing from K-pop,
yeah,
weirdly.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell the difference either, and the only reason I knew is because I had the art pulled up when I was doing it, and it says first Japanese EP, and I was
oh,
like, and I didn't even see the Japanese part. I was like, how is this his first EP when he just dropped an EP like 3 weeks ago? And so I looked at that one. It didn't say the word Japanese. I just kind of put two and two together there. But yeah, interesting wrinkle into it. I think the music still sounds great regardless.
hell yeah.
All right, new one from this group called BRB. Take Cover is the name of this EP. So my wife found a song by this group a couple of years ago that I really liked. Hit follow, never really checked back on what they'd released after. So this is the first EP of theirs I've heard in full, and I'm kind of blown away by how good it is, man. They're lumped in with K-pop in terms of like what playlist they end up on, but they're actually from Singapore. The pop music they make, I think, is kind of universal in genre, though. You can't hear a song like Noose and just not love it if you're a fan of pop music. It's just not possible. Other tracks on here are great. The intro is like way more grungy than I've ever heard them do, so I wasn't expecting it, but I thought it fit. Pretty sure You're Fine has been getting so many plays per day from me. Not a surprise if you've heard it. Munchies is great. I think this is a perfect 4 song EP for a group like this to put out. What about you?
Yeah, I actually super agree, man. I love like the amalgamation of genres here. We got some
Hmm.
like indie rock, like some gorillas adjacent bass lines, some garage, like you said, some great vocals, catchiness at all corners. So much fun. This was a great listen.
I'm glad you liked it. I don't know the parameters of like their musical instruments. I don't think they're a band, but I do think that they can kind of fool around on keys and guitar long enough to maybe write a little bit differently than somebody that doesn't know how to do that. And I think it shows in their music. Really, really good, and I'm glad
Yep,
you enjoyed it too, man.
sure did.
All right, let's finish off the EPs with this new one from Rumen you added, Habit Formation. What are your thoughts on it?
So I'm actually pretty sure that the label attribution on Spotify is wrong. I'm pretty sure this came out on modular, but I love the
Interesting.
minimalism that's messed around with here. Driving kicks. There's like a lot of bleeps and bloops, but they're like distorted and reverbed out, you know? I'm a big fan of this one. Tunnel Metal Bridge is so fucking neat.
Oh, dude, that fucking song goes hard, man. This whole EP is like a lot more bass than it is beeps and boops, though, and it's
Yep.
not any less engaging because of it. If anything, it's like the extra focus on the drums only enhances the actual dance groove that it's creating. So I really enjoyed it, man. I thought it was a fun listen.
Great.
All right, that does it for the EPs. Are you ready to move on to the albums?
I sure am.
All right, man, let's move on. First one up this week is by an artist named David. You guys might know it more by the visual, which is D4vd. The album is called Withered. We've talked about him before when his track with Callie came out. His voice is great. The songs on here are good. I think it's a decent album. There's times I wanted more from the writing and the instrumentals, but I think when the album's clicking, it's a decent listen. I think it takes a little while to find its groove. With the exception of Sky, I don't love the early tracks, but I think once we get into the back half of the album, I found it a lot easier to try to get lost in at least. Like the album weaves back and forth between indie, pop, R&B, and his voice has the ability to make all of that work. But as a result, there are songs and stretches of this album that I connect with more than others. The track with Callie is my favorite, but we already knew that would be the case. What surprised me is that stretch from Is This Really Love through Feel It. Hearing him go from like great song to great song to great song in such an effortless way not only solidified this as a good debut album, but it also really got me excited to hear how he'll grow and move on from this one next. I don't see him getting worse over time. I only see him growing from here. This album is somewhere between a 6 and 7 for me. My standout is Crashing with Kaliuchis, obviously. What about you, man? What'd you think of this?
We had only covered the one song with Callie, and so I wasn't really entirely certain what to expect here, but what we got was like a really dreamy pop record, some great melodies here. What I love are like it's not a straight R&B record, right? He
No.
does throw like a lot of hits in there of R&B, like his collab with Callie
Hmm.
and tracks like Is This Really Love, a few others obviously. There's like a lot of heart that goes into this. I think this is the first like full release of his we've covered, yeah?
Yes.
I am a fan of it. I actually found it engaging all the way through. Like I said, I wasn't sure what to expect, so I kind of went in fully like open, and I actually loved the structure of the album and the way it was set up to kind of progress into R&B and pop stuff. I really liked
Yeah.
that. His vocals hit at every note he sings, and the instrumentals are all really purposeful, man. This is a solid 7 for me. I actually think though, Is This Really Love is going to be my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm not like such a Cali stan, that would probably be my favorite too. I think it's the best Just David track on the album by far.
Right.
I'm glad you enjoyed this one too, man. And I
Did.
like your note about how the album is structured to move from genre to genre. I didn't touch on that, and I think that is a big part of kind of listening to and understanding this album.
And and
Well
it, and
said,
it
man.
feels very purposeful, which I
Yeah.
love. You know, I love that.
Yeah, he didn't luck into that. That was very intentional for sure. He also made some viral headlines during Coachella for being the guy that tried to backflip off of his drum riser and just landed on his head. Shout out for him to redoing it weekend two and actually landing. Just furthering the case that week two is really the week to go.
Week one is sound check. All locals know it. Next.
Everyone knows it. All right, next up, we got this album from Gigi Perez, At the Beach in Every Life. You and longtime listeners of this podcast know I am not much of an indie folk guy, so probably a little surprising that I was the one that added this, even a little more surprising that I like it, but maybe less so once you accept that what she's great at just transcends personal preferences. Her voice is just one of those ones that draws you in. Her writing ability has her writing has this ability to like make me relate to life experiences I have not had and probably never will. This music is so simple yet so hauntingly emotional. Clearly, it's resonated with a lot of people because I was unaware of just how popular she was until I started my notes for this review. I first heard her a few months ago when her song Chemistry was released. I had no idea that she had a song with almost a billion plays and 30 million monthly listeners. After listening to this album
Crazy.
multiple times this week, insane numbers, I can see why she has the following she does. Sailor Song, Sugar Water, and Twister are all phenomenal. Sleeping is a fantastic track. That three-song run of Nothing, Absolutely, Chemistry, and Survivor's Guilt is one of the best three-song runs this year. Again, this is not typically an album I would gravitate to, but it won me over by sheer force and talent. It's not the type of album I'll listen to every day, but it's not an album I'm going to be forgetting anytime soon either. I think this is a strong seven, maybe even a light eight. Chemistry is my standout. I understand the restraint when it comes to using drums on this album, but I selfishly hope we get more tracks like that one in the future because the way it swells and kind of peaks in the middle of the album just left me wanting that high again. I thought the album was great regardless, though, man. What about you? What did you think? You went into this one blind, as far as I know.
Real blind. Uh, that's so funny. I'm actually not too sure what to think of this one, man. This sounds a little generic to me as a fan of indie folk.
Hmm.
Aside from there is some insanely meaningful and intentional lyrical content. Like it's good, but for the whole album, like as a whole, wasn't extremely engaging for me.
That's fair.
Maybe there's like a lot of acoustic stuff on it, which maybe just isn't my jam at this current moment. She does have a good voice, and everything is obviously very well produced. It just feels a little soulless to me for the majority of the record. There are exceptions, like Normalcy is a great track, has some really great moments. It reminds me of a Phoebe Bridgers track, and it actually made me figure out what I don't like about this album, which
Interesting.
is the majority of it feels like she's trying to be Phoebe Bridgers rather than rather than like I guess finding her own like way. It feels a lot like Normalcy's great because she's clearly like doing it and it reminds me of Phoebe Bridgers, but it doesn't like make me think of her, you know what I mean? The rest of the album does. I
Fair.
didn't hate it. I did like a handful of tracks like Survivor's Guilt and Chemistry. Those are both really good songs. It's a five for me. Standout is going to be Normalcy though. It's a great song.
That's more than fair. And I was really excited to get your take on this one because of that fact. You having such a wider I wouldn't say like knowledge. You definitely have a wider knowledge of indie folk as a genre, but I think it's you know what your taste in the genre is at this point, and you've listened to so many of the artists that the artists we're covering now are musical children of. Well, I guess we can kind of get into that later with Winona Fighter. It's like so many bands are the children of Paramore now, but like that's not always a bad thing. And I think to people that might not have a verbose knowledge of the era or the influences that this is derived from, they're going to enjoy it a lot more than those that are kind of seeing how it was made in a way. But I
Well,
think
it's
that's a more than fair shake.
it is so funny you say that because I actually was like reflecting a little bit today on Coachella. I met a lot of people at a lot of house like house shows, asking people who they're excited to see. They're Chris Stussy, Sarah Landry, who closed it? I forget his name. And anyways, I was like, "Oh, you guys are ravers. You're gonna go see the Prodigy?" And they're like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm old." But
Oh man, their loss.
every I mean, it's arguable that every electronic music, it's not even arguable. Every house fucking DJ and producer are children of Kraftwerks, right? And they played the
Yes.
festival and they did not have a massive crowd like Malp's Dulab set did. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's an interesting observation what you just said.
I agree. We can leave that there for now because I'm sure we're going to circle back to that in another episode soon. But I think that that's an interesting thought to keep going forward.
Yep.
All right, man, it's time. New Viagra Boys album, somewhat self-titled Viagra Boys. I know you've been dying to talk about this one, man, so please hit me with your thoughts.
It's here. My God, I love this band, John. I have been bumping the singles like every day since they released, and I've praised them enough on the podcast. So let's just start with Pyramid of Health, shall we? What a
Please.
banger. They have an extreme knack for writing songs that are so fucking stupid and funny while simultaneously like having really serious messages. This is one of those for sure. Eating cigarettes for breakfast is one of those lines. Um, Dirty Boys, classic Viagra Boys cadence, while again being silly and funny, but also very clearly talking about like the mistreatment of homeless people and in hyperbole. Wild shit. Medicine for Horses is a classic down tempo Viagra Boys song, like Worms before it. It's placed perfectly on the album as a little bit of a break from the partying with some really serious lyrical content. I love the backing vocals on the chorus on this one. We do get right back to the party though with Waterboy, synth lines, bass lines, and silliness all around on this one. Store policy is hilarious and unhinged at literally every corner. Um, you Need Me is the history lesson that we all needed, right? Why don't we use bears in warfare anymore, John? Um,
You
Best
don't.
in Show,
I do.
right, speak for yourself. Best in Show Part 4, again, wildly unhinged. Love it. River King to close out is actually great. Seriously passionate vocals, some sultry sax with some piano, just really makes
Oh,
you want to listen to the whole record again, man. This album is great. Like all of their records, they're 4 for 4 on albums, in my opinion. Dive bar post punk, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Easy nine. Out of the non singles, Pyramid of Health is probably my favorite. Out of totality, though, Uno 2. That's the one.
that is the one. Dude,
What are your thoughts?
I'm honestly shocked you didn't give it a 10. I thought for sure this week when I was listening to it, I was like, Brandon's going 10 on this one. My thoughts are very much in line with yours.
I
Look,
did think about it.
there's no mystery with this one. That might be part of it. We knew this was going to be as great, and we knew it was going to be great, and it is, man. There's no other band that can scratch this specific itch. The way that they write music and lyrics is unlike anything else in music right now. There's not a single bad song on this album, and they never feel like they're repeating themselves thematically or tonally or otherwise. They already were, but this like further solidified them as one of the best and most creative bands in the world today. Singles like Man Made of Meat, Uno 2, The Body Bag are just as fun to listen to now as they were the first time we heard them a few months ago. Of the new songs we got though, man, Waterboy is my favorite, but like I said earlier, there's not a bad song on here. It changes by the day. This is the textbook definition of a no skips album. It has almost infinite replayability, coming in at 11 tracks in less than 40 minutes. And like you said to me in your text the other day, Viagra Boys album ends, restarts Viagra Boys album. It is that type of album, man. Some other things that I love about this album that I just want to mention: the guitars, no need to explain that further if you've heard the album. Also, just the weird little fucking lead vocal melody at the start of Pyramid of Health, having this like DNA of Marcy's Playground, Sex and Candy, like in it without being a direct interpolation. I don't even know if that's intentional, but I love that it makes me think of that because anytime I get to think of Marcy's Playground, I'm very happy. But that's a different topic. So getting back to this album, just I fucking love it. It's hard to give it anything lower than a 9 at worst. It is easily one of the best rock albums we've got this year, if not the. It deserves all the things. Strong 9 for me as well. My standout's also Uno too, man. I think the farther we
Banger.
get away from the rollout, the more just that one is the one for me.
You know, I want to say that everything they do is intentional, but I don't know, like the burp on Man Made of Meat. Do you think that was like planned, or do you think he was just in the studio and had a beer and burped into the mic and they were just like, ah, fuck it, keep it. Like, you know?
Yeah, I never thought about it before, but they don't seem like the type to just try and recreate that as if they're like Justin Roiland in multiple
Right,
takes. Yeah, I think that it was probably just a take and it was like, fuck it, that sounds fun. Let's use
right.
it. people are gonna remember that more than if I sang it normal.
Exactly. Yeah. Love this album, man. Glad you loved it as well. I almost gave it a 10, but you know, and like you said, it was I expected it to be a very
Yeah.
high scoring record, you know, and there were no surprises here besides no, there were no surprises. I knew it was going to be wildly unhinged.
Yeah.
So
Yes, yes, as expected. I love it too. There's nothing wrong with giving something room to grow too, man. It could grow into a 10 the more you listen to it throughout the year too.
very true.
All right, new one from Tennis, Face Down in the Garden. When we talked about the last single, 12 Blown Tires, I said that it was like bittersweet considering the circumstances, which are, for anyone who may not know, this is their last album. The tour they're going on is going to be their last. Knowing that, I assume that it'd feel a little more personal, and I think it does. But I think that they were able to step out of the conceptual restraints that they used to construct their last album without losing any of what makes a Tennis album compelling. It's not one of my favorite albums of theirs, but I think it's a good note to go out on, and it delivers a few songs I'm going to be listening to long after this episode. Overall, this one is like between a 6 and 7 for me. Thought it was okay. My standout is Weight of Desire, though. I think that's the one going forward where I'm just going to be grateful that we got this album for that track. What about you, man? I know you were kind of struggling with the singles and the rollout. Did this one end up doing more than you expected, or just kind of about what you expected?
I mean, it's a Tennis album, right? I love this band. I'm really sad to see them go. I'm glad that we did get a chance to review a handful of their albums on the podcast, though. This being their final record, it feels like it, right? Everything feels very final. The
Yeah.
writing, the instrumentals, they just feel final. At 29 minutes, Tennis does everything they're good at, creating great melodies, creating unmatched atmosphere, fantastic lyrical content, and tons of love injected into what they do. I'm really going to miss this band. But, you know, I actually saw they did a Reddit AMA today, and
Interesting.
somebody asked why, like how did you know it was time? And they felt more like a product than they did a creative entity. And if they had continued, their music would have suffered. And I actually agree with the take.
Good
So,
time to walk away then. Yeah.
yep. It's a solid 7 for me. Either At the Apartment or Sister. Both of those are really good tracks.
Good tracks. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up after this. All right, moving on. We got a new one from Heart Attack, man. Joyride the Pale Horse is the name of this album. I don't even know where to start with this one, man. That they did it again. We both really liked their last album, Freak of Nature, and I can't believe it's already been like 2 years since that release because that album has not aged at all to me. This album will probably maintain a similar shelf life. They've managed to strike this like perfect balance between being nostalgic but also making music that feels timeless in a way. And as much as I liked Freak of Nature, I think that they outdid themselves with this one. It sounds more polished without sacrificing any of the more raw elements of their sound. I always give extra points to an album for airtight sequencing, and I think that this is one of the best we've gotten as it regards to the genre of this genre of music all year. I don't know what else to say about it, man. This album does the things that I wanted it to do. It's a strong 7, maybe even a light 8 for me. My standout is either tough one. Either Laughing Without Smiling or End of the Gun. Both are up there. What about you, man? What'd you think of this one?
Riffy, hardcore, pop punk adjacent. Heart Attack, man, is back. Wild that it's been almost 2 years, bro. That actually
Yep.
blew my mind right now. Um, they have this way of writing riffs that just stands the fuck out, man. And I love that, like you said, they kind of ride the line between nostalgia and timeless. And I think that's because they kind of wear their influences on their sleeve, right? Lots of Beck
Yep.
and some 41 on Laughing Without Smiling. There's lots of like old school heavy metal and a lot of the riffs, lots of like 90s skate punk on Call of the Void. This is such a fun record, man. I don't have much to say besides that, but I think they hit it out of the park again. Solid 8 for me. Laughing Without Smiling. Banger.
You said more than enough, buddy. I agree. All right, let's move on to this one from Winona Fighter. My apologies to the chef. This album came out in like February or something, and I think you might have even added a song or two of theirs to the pod over the past few years. But I really don't think it clicked for me how good they really are until I just recently had to throw this on and like sit with it. But man, long overdue props to this album. This is another easy no skips for me. Jumper Cables is a perfect opener. You Look Like a Drunk Phoebe Bridgers has some of that like vintage Paramore in its DNA, but with a lot more aggression. Subaru rocks, and as someone who owns one, I can relate to it. Even a hand-me-down Subaru will get you through most things, people. Buy used, they're pretty good. Hams in a Glass is one of those songs I can hear a million times and not get tired of. Swimmer's Ear is reminiscent of like the auditions, Controversy Loves Company era, which is not something I'm reminded of very often. Are You Famous is the song that finally slapped me out of trying to ignore how good this band is. Heard it a few weeks ago, knew I had to hear the rest of the album immediately. It's still my favorite on the album. Incredible lyrics, great instrumental. It actually reminds me a lot of Heart Song by Automatic Love Letter, and I love that song. So it's not a shocker that I love Are You Famous as much as I do. Some other highlights on this album for me: I'm in the Market to Please No One, Wilburn Street Tavern, Johnny's Dead. There's something to love about almost every song on this album. It's up there with Scowl and LS Dunes as like my favorite punk albums of the year. It's that fucking good, man. It's an easy 9 for me. My standout is Are You Famous? What'd you end up thinking of this one?
It is awesome, man. Number one, My Apologies to the Chef is such a good album title, bro.
Yes.
Just incredible. We have some, I would consider this pop punk, right? A little bit of pop punk.
Yes.
Um, it, this album fucking rules, dude. I don't have a lot of notes on it, but what I know is that Winona Fighter is channeling their inner newfound glory, but if they were fronted by Haley Williams in like the mid 90s, you know what I mean?
Yes.
This man, I mean that as the highest compliment. There's guitar solos on this record.
Hmm.
Like you said, it's full of bangers. Every track, there's something to love about it. I love it. High energy, pop punk. It all works so well. I'm glad you loved it so much, man. I'm between a 7 and an 8 on it. My
Fair.
standout though is "Swear to God That I'm Fine" or "You Look Like a Drunk Phoebe Bridgers." Both of those songs are fucking great.
I was biting my tongue earlier when you were talking about Phoebe Bridgers because my
I
mind
know.
just kept going to that fucking song title.
I'm sure.
All right. Let's talk about this new Kardashev album, Alunea. What do you think of it?
All right. So Kardashev is one of those bands that I need a lot of time with for all of it to make sense, right? I have not sat down with all of the lyrics for this one yet. So my review is kind of a preliminary review of what I was able to catch. Um,
Sure.
the intro, a precipice, a door, sets the stage beautifully for this record. Similar to their last album, I think Liminal Right, they have this like angelic, clean vocals, and the harsh vocals on this one are just absolutely unhinged, man. There are moments that are really like early 2000s like deathcore almost vocals, you know what I mean? Back when everybody was, not the vocal Olympics, but everybody was trying to like find their own sound, and my God, they found it on this one, man. Um I really hate the band name Genital Shame, who's featured on Speak Silence, but that song is great. We've got a 42-minute prog gazy death metal adjacent beautiful album. I am excited to eventually this year sit down with the lyrics in front of me. I really love this album. If I had to pick a standout, I think it would probably be Truth to Form. I'm gonna give it an 8 for now. Yeah, what'd you think?
I thought it was okay. As it relates to Metal Gaze albums, I think I've learned that like the Death Heaven one that we talked about recently was maybe a little more my speed. And I'm not trying to like bring this one down by comparing it to another, but I'm just bringing it up because I'm still figuring what like my taste
Fair, bro.
is as it relates to these subgenres. I remember you saying like Death Heaven was shoegaze for people who don't like shoegaze, black metal for people like who don't like black metal. And that's probably true, but I also feel like I probably fall into that category of people you're talking about. This album feels heavier and slightly less accessible from a broader standpoint, which is what most real metal fans love. But I'm at this like very weird place in my metal fandom where this specific sound just doesn't do a ton for me. I'm still able to appreciate the artistry behind it, and it's not a chore to get through by any means. But it's not an album I'm like left thinking about or wanting to dive back into anytime soon. Part of that could be like you said, I didn't have time to really dig into the lyrics in full on this one just yet. But also, as I just laid out, it has a lot more to do with my personal preference than the album itself. But with that said, there is some solid tracks on here. I thought the opening two-song run of A Precipice, A Door, and Reunion was strong, and that the finale of Below Sun and Soil felt appropriately epic. But I just landed on this album being good. It didn't really end up blowing me away. So I'm going to give it a solid 6, but I will align with you on the standout. Truth to Form is my standout as well. That song
Great
goes
track.
really fucking hard. Good
Cool,
stuff,
man.
man. The last album to talk about this week is the one from Cancer, Inverted World. I know you text me about this one saying Cancer, so please dive in.
Well, so I had started that album and texted that to you, man. I actually all right, so let me back up here.
Yeah.
I was finding death metal when I was a kid, and there was an album that this band Cancer put out called To the Gory End. I believe released in 91 or 92. They have this like thrashiness to them that's like injected into the death metal, and it adds like a lot of groove. I actually think that like bands like Dying Fetus, in their early music when they were finding their groove, took a lot from bands that were like Death and Cancer that were kind of injecting a little bit of thrash into their music, right? Um, this album is not as good as To the Gory End, which is fucked up to compare to early albums, but it kind of also isn't because they didn't change anything. They just did a thrashy death metal record. For what it is, a thrashy death metal record, it's good. There is some stupid lyrics and gory stuff and it is fun, and there's a lot of great riffs, a couple of great solos, really good drumming. But it's like all of the other bands that have either survived or gotten back together. This is kind of a mummified version of the band. Basically, the only person that still exists from the original lineup is the vocalist,
Interesting.
and they haven't released anything in a while. And I don't know. I went into it really liking it, and then as I kept listening to it, I just wanted to go listen to their early stuff, and that
Fair.
kind of bummed me out a little bit. It's a 6. I did like it more than I didn't. I think my standout is probably going to be Test Site is really cool.
Yeah, I had a kind of a similar like score and stuff. Although I arrived to it a little bit differently. I wasn't sure I was gonna like this one, especially like it coming right after the Kardashev one. I But the more I listened to this one, the more I did enjoy it. But to be honest, I had no idea they'd been a band for 35 years. Like I'd heard their name before,
Right.
obviously, but like Jesus Christ, man, I like that's an insane amount of time to pass and still be doing this in any regard, even if it's just one person. But yeah, I don't have a verbose knowledge of their past stuff, so I really can't have anything to compare it to the way you do. But I mostly say all of that to just say, like, I went in blind. I was surprised at how many times I ended up nodding along to this one and enjoying it. Like, it's dark and heavy. It's campy. It knows what it is, or at least I hope it does. And it doesn't really try to be anything else. I enjoyed it for that. It's somewhere between a high 6, low 7. My standout is Enter the Gates, though, man. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. There's a couple of great tracks on here.
Yeah, no, it's a decent metal album. I don't think it's any like I'm going to be running to recommend to people, but I think it's a decent album. And if you don't have high expectations for it, or maybe any expectations for it like me, it'll land a little more than if you do. All right,
Yeah,
man.
sometimes historical context is good, but sometimes it can also jade you a little bit, you know?
Everything jades me, man. Everything. That's just how I am. All right, dude. That does it for our albums this week. We got another fun release week coming up. New albums from Pup, Model Actress, Blonde Shell, Lights, that new Flume and JPEG Mafia EP, and a whole lot more. Make sure you're following along with our weekly rotating playlist. You can find the link to that in the show notes. You can also follow us on Reddit and Instagram. Just search Brandon's Face Pod. We will see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.